Welcome to Breakdown. Today is Tuesday, March 25th. JJ, round one and round two. The NCAA tournament is in the books. We down to Sweet 16.
Yeah, it's bittersweet because the best weekend in sports just went by. In my opinion, I love college basketball. It's my favorite. Um, but we still have the Sweet 16 to look forward to.
You know, I agree that the first round of the NCAA tournament is the best weekend in sports, period, above all. But JJ, SEC Big Ten.
Yeah, there's a lot of SEC and Big Ten representation, luckily, specifically down south. The SEC, the Conference of Champions. I guess they get to borrow that moniker from the Pac-12 now that they no longer exist in their own form. Well, they have 7 teams in the tournament.
SEC has 7.
7 left in the tournament, 16 in the Sweet 16.
They started with 14, half of them left in the first weekend. The Big Ten started with 8, they have 4.
Also, half of them left. But what's the significance of the number 7 for the SEC?
It's record breaking.
It is record breaking. I think 2016 was the year that the ACC got 6 teams into the Sweet 16.
And the SEC got 7. Are you surprised?
Yes and no. There's only 2 teams that were not favored to get here, but by strength of seed.
Okay.
And that is obviously your Arkansas Razorbacks at
Ooh,
Tennessee.
Pigs.
Yeah, and Ole Miss, they were able to upset Iowa State pretty handily. Well,
It was, but then
then Iowa State came back.
back,
It was handily until it wasn't, and then they pulled it out at the end.
Well, in our last episode, JJ, I had said that the SEC would get 6 teams to the Sweet 16. I did not make a prediction for the Big Ten, but the Big Ten, Maryland snuck in. We'll talk about that later. But
Yeah,
JJ, there's 8 games left. How about if we talk about each game, starting with the South and go around the horn?
It's only fitting that we start with the South.
Why?
Well, because the South is the conference that has 7 teams in it, and the South has 2 matchups that are Big Ten versus SEC.
Okay. The SEC definitely has 2 teams, and the Big Ten has 2 teams in the South. There's been some matchups in the round 1 and 2, Big Ten versus SEC, but the ones that really count are the ones. Let's start off with the Auburn, Michigan matchup.
Yeah.
In Atlanta, Georgia. They're going to play Friday.
That should be basically a home game from Auburn, right? They're 2 hours away from Atlanta?
Yeah, it's a home game. The Big Ten, Michigan won the Big Ten conference tournament.
Yeah.
It looked impressive in their games. Auburn, how would you say Auburn's first 2 games?
They've looked a little rocky. I think. They dominated Alabama State. I mean, I think it was like a 20-point game the entire time.
Okay, they dominated at the end. I think at halftime it was like a 5-point game, or maybe even less than that.
Well, yeah, maybe that was at halftime, but
Yeah.
They ended up dominating them at the end. And Creighton never really got that close in the second half.
In the second half, you're right. So Auburn, Michigan. Let's talk about Michigan's first 2 games, and then let's talk about our pick for that game.
Yeah. Yeah, so Michigan went up big against UC San Diego, and then they almost blew it. But they advanced. They were able to advance, and they were able to cover. Good teams win, great teams cover. So
Okay.
they were able to not only win the game, they were able to cover and advance to Texas A&M, where they were an underdog.
Okay. They played Texas A&M. Were you surprised by that? It was a 4 against a 5.
No, I'm not surprised. That's the way it's supposed to be. That's what the way the matchup projects it to be.
No. Were you surprised that Michigan won?
Well, I mean, if you just watched the first half part of the game, you'd be very surprised. But Michigan ended up winning by about 10.
Yeah, Texas A&M led early in the game.
Yeah, like by double digits early on, and Michigan looked very bad. Turnovers and just sloppy play. But
How do you see the matchup, Michigan and Auburn? Auburn was the overall number 1 seed.
Yeah, I mean, well,
And they are 8.5 point favorite.
so Auburn was able to neutralize Ryan Kalkbrenner for Creighton, 7-1, three-time Big East Defensive Player of the Year. He's a big with mobility. He can put it on the deck and take it to the hole, and he's 7-1. He can protect the rim. Michigan has two 7-footers, so we'll see if they can use Vlad Golden and um, the guy from Yale.
Okay.
We'll see if they can, you know,
And who you going to pick to win that game though?
well, I mean, I think Florida's.
I mean
Sorry.
Auburn.
I think Auburn is favored by almost 9 points for a reason. I think Auburn does have the assumed player of the year, Janai Broom. If not Cooper Flag, I don't know. Who do you have in that?
I think Flag might take.
Okay, yeah, I think he's been like the late favorite for sure. But Janai Broom's gonna finish runner up. So, they have a well rounded team. They have great perimeter play. I think Michigan's gonna struggle, to guard Pettig, Pettigrew, or I can't remember. It's not Pettigrew, but the freshman point guard that put up 21 last game.
All right. We in agreement. We both got Auburn winning that game. JJ, let's go to the other SEC Big Ten matchup.
All right, let's head there.
It's in Atlanta as well, and this is Friday. It is Ole Miss versus Michigan State. Go Green.
Yeah, go green over the running Rebels. That's for sure.
Mississippi. I mean, they were the underdog against North Carolina. North Carolina had to play the play-in game, and they were the favorite over Ole Miss, and Ole Miss won that game, and then Ole Miss beat Iowa State, and Iowa State was the favorite there. So Ole Miss had the North Carolina game. Technically that was a 6 against an 11, so you shouldn't call it an upset. But the Vegas had North Carolina favored. How would you evaluate Ole Miss?
Um, I would evaluate Ole Miss as being a pretty well-rounded team. The point guard Sean Padilla has been pretty solid, if not like explosive. I mean, he was that in one of the games, but not both. I think Ole Miss is incredibly well coached. I think Chris Beard.
I agree.
I think Chris Beard's one of the 5 best coaches in the sport, and I think he will not let Ole Miss beat them. I think you'll have to go out there and beat them, and I think Michigan State has the ability to do that. But because Michigan State does not shoot the three well, that does make them incredibly reliant on
defense.
Well, on defense and just them being able to score, in the interior. Because if they can't do that and they're trying to settle for outside shots, I think that could be a long night for Michigan State.
Okay, JJ, you said Beard is one of the best coaches, top 5 coaches. Where would you put Coach Izzo?
All time I'll put him up there. He's him and a coach for your favorite team are tied for the most active Sweet 16 appearances. They each got 16. But yeah, he's definitely up there. I don't know. I think as of right now, I would probably give the advantage to Ole Miss over Michigan State. But
In the coaching.
yeah.
Okay.
But
Okay.
that might have been coming into this year. I think Michigan State I think Tom Izzo looks rejuvenated, and he has had a bounce back year, and just had Michigan State getting out there and running and getting out there on the boards, because they haven't always done that. They had a reputation for rebounding and playing tough defense, but they haven't always attacked the boards with the veracity that they do now.
Well, Michigan State, they defeated Bryant and also defeated New Mexico. Michigan State's forte this year, JJ, has been play it even or play it good to halftime, and then in the second half, just shut your opponent down. Jace Richardson comes alive. The whole team just seemed to get rejuvenated when the second half start. Can they keep this up? They are 3.5 point favorite.
It's going to be interesting. I think that I anticipate Ole Miss throwing a little bit of zone at Michigan State, seeing if they can shoot their way out of that. I don't know, if it would just be a 2-3 or like a 1-3-1, but I think Michigan State, I think they're favored. They have the players. I think Jaden Akins, the fourth year senior, the only fourth year player in the program. I think he's he stepped up big this year, and they have immense talent in the freshman, the legacy Jace Richardson. But Jace Richardson had an off shooting night.
He did. It was like 1 for 11 or something like that. But he hit the big one.
He did hit the one that mattered. But he did have a very off shooting night. He won't be able to afford to have that type of shooting night against Ole Miss.
True.
And they will key in on him. I think Jeremy Fears, he scored pretty good. He had double digits. I think they're going to need him to be able to, not be a liability on offense. But I think they're really going to need, Jackson Kohler, I think, will have to play. I think he'll have to, draw a lot of attention for Michigan State to advance.
One of the difference makers for MSU over the past weekend in round 1 and 2 was Carr.
Yeah, Colin Carr, he had 19 and 8 again in the game against Bryant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But not only his athleticism was on full display. It's going to be interesting to see. I think Ole Miss is pretty athletic as well. Now, I don't think they are as athletic as Michigan State. I tell you what, I'm taking Michigan State in overtime in that one.
Overtime would be a thriller. I would definitely love to see that. I do think Michigan State should advance, but after seeing what Ole Miss did against Iowa State, I wouldn't be surprised if Ole Miss played the upset there. I mean, Chris Beard's a tournament coach. He's proven that. He's made.
I agree. But March is when Tom Izzo comes around.
That is true.
Yeah. So let's go to San Francisco. I left my heart in San Francisco. Because my heart will be in San Francisco playing Thursday night at 10 o'clock. Come on, have some mercy on me, people. 10 o'clock. JJ, why so late? Let's talk about Arkansas and Texas Tech.
Texas Tech.
Two Southwest Conference teams hooking up against each. Yeah. I spent 3 years in Lubbock, Texas, JJ.
Oh, yeah, so you're very familiar with
yeah.
the Red Raiders.
I am. More so their football, though, than basketball. I was more interested back in those days. But, JJ.
Yeah.
Arkansas is a 10th seed.
Yeah.
The lowest seed that made it this far. I got a question. Has NIL and the transfer portal eliminated Cinderella from the Sweet 16?
I think in some ways it has, and I think you just have to reframe how you look at what a Cinderella is, and is it for the school or is it for the individual? Because there's a lot of different
for the seeding.
Yeah, I mean you're not gonna. Well, I don't know. Just last year, Jack Golke upset. You had the NIL and the transfer portal last year, and Jack Golke had an upset. Of the Kentucky Wildcats.
That's true.
Oakland was able to facilitate that. It was 3 years ago that St. Peter's went to Elite Eight. I know that preceded the transfer portal. Well, did it precede the transfer portal?
It did not. But this is what it is. The teams are more effectively, the major teams are more effectively using the transfer portal.
Oh yeah.
Who was it? I heard somebody, some mid-major saying that they're going to be recruiting some people, and he told them, if you here still at my mid-major school after 2 years, it's your fault.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
So that the mid-majors, no, it's going to be tough for them to get someone to hang around for 4 years. I'll just put it like that. A really good guy to hang around for 4 years.
Just like it's hard to keep a coach, it's going to be hard to keep players.
Let's go back, JJ. Texas Tech. Texas Tech is the 3 seed. Arkansas is the 10 seed. Arkansas is a 5-point favorite. Arkansas was a dog in the first game against Kansas. They beat Bill Self, Kansas. They were a dog against St. John. They beat Rick Pitino. They've been killing giants. Texas Tech doesn't have a giant coaching them right now. Can they still win?
Yeah, I mean, Arkansas could still win.
Will they win?
5 points isn't insurmountable. I like the way that Arkansas has been playing right now. That's a good question is who will all be playing for Arkansas, because there is a big question mark.
Thiero, will he be back?
Edu Thiero, if he'll be back. He hasn't been playing in How many games is it? Double 10, 11 games?
He's missed quite a few. I don't know if it's been that many.
Well, it's been. It feels like 10. He's
I'm gonna
missed.
say about 8, but it might be 10.
He's missed quite a few games. And Adu was able to flourish because of his absence. But it would be really nice to have him. I think I think he's a difference maker. I think if Arkansas has him and he's anywhere near full strength, anywhere above 85%, I think I like Arkansas's chances. What say you?
But let's boogie down, JJ. What you think about Boogie playing?
I think he played really good defense.
First week back. First. I mean, this. I'm sorry. He played good defense, but go ahead. He came back after having surgery on his thumb.
Yeah.
And missing I don't know how many games, probably 20 games or more. So.
Yeah, I thought he was out for the season. I guess that was just the regular season.
I did too. I'm gonna take Arkansas. I heard some guys say that Texas Tech has better athletes. I've not watched Texas Tech nearly as closely as I have Arkansas. Arkansas is exceedingly athletic. I don't care what anybody say. They are athletic. I like them a lot. I'm going to go with Arkansas over Texas Tech.
Yeah, I mean that's what my heart says as well.
Okay. Well, JJ, let's stay in San Francisco. We've done 2 Big Ten SEC matchups. Can we do one more?
Yeah, why not continue on with the theme since...
How about Florida, Maryland?
Yeah, Florida, Maryland.
Florida's a 7-point favorite.
That should be a pretty good matchup. Yeah, Florida is a 7-point favorite, and the only reason they get to play this game is because of a controversial last second end of game shot by Derek Queen of Maryland over Colorado State. Some people thought he took a 3-step. Some people thought he took a gather and 2 steps. What say you?
That one snicked by me. All I know is he banked it off the glass. I didn't.
Oh, you haven't heard about the controversy?
I had not. That's news to me.
There's a big controversy on whether or not that was.
What say you? Because I don't remember it.
I would not call that a travel, but I watch a lot of NBA, and I think the rules for the NBA are a little bit different. But I would not have called that a travel, but I'm not sure if I know the rules of college that well.
So Maryland has 5 players, JJ, averaging double digits. What say you about that?
The Crab 5, as they call them. Yeah, I mean, I think they're a well-rounded team. You got a couple of transfers on that team that are showing out. You have like the 5-star freshman and Queen. He's a star when it comes to the quote machine. Talking about why he likes his coach Kevin Willard so much. He's like, well, he pays us the money, as well as his answer.
But Maryland struggled against Colorado State.
They did struggle against Colorado State.
The Florida-UConn game was one of the better games of the weekend.
Florida definitely struggled against UConn.
They did.
Walter Clayton Jr. Struggled for a good 30 minutes of the game. I think they threw a lot of different looks his way. They doubled from different ways, from zone, from man, and his main defender, number 10 for UConn. Why is his name escaping me? He was very, very physical, and he was grabbing them early and to set the tone. But at the end, Walter Clayton Jr. came through, and I think he had like 8 or 10 of his 18 points at the end.
UConn was the defending 2-time national champions. They didn't give that crown away easily. It hasn't been decided who's going to get it, but we know that UConn will not three-peat. JJ, who you got in the Florida-Maryland game?
Florida, Maryland. I think most people have Florida. I think Florida's a hot pick for, to win it all. I'm gonna surprise people, I think, and pick Maryland. I have a lot of faith in Maryland.
Okay.
But just to get back to UConn, yeah. Not only is UConn out of the tournament, the Big East is out of the tournament. So
that's true. JJ, let's move from San Francisco and go to New Jersey. You mentioned out of the tournament, the ACC has 1 team remaining in the tournament.
Yeah, but they have a pretty good one team to have if you're going to only have one.
They got 1 team. Who's that 1 team?
I think that would be the Duke Blue Devils, led by not Coach K, but
Cooper.
John Shire.
Oh, you mean coach?
Oh, yeah.
I'm picking the player.
Yes. Cooper Flag, the likely player of the year, does lead them in that respect. But It's interesting to think that Duke could feasibly win a championship without um,
Coach K.
yeah, allegedly the greatest coach of all time in the sport. Him or John Wooden, I think, is pretty much the consensus.
Well, according to Vegas, the Duke Arizona game should be the least competitive of the Sweet 16 games.
Yeah, it should almost be double digits.
Duke is a 9.5 point favorite
Yeah.
over Arizona. Arizona came back from the Oregon in round two. They were playing Oregon. I thought Oregon had wrapped up like early in the game. With like 10 minutes to go. Oregon was up almost 20. I don't remember, but they was up really, really good.
Yeah.
How did they let Arizona come back and win, JJ?
I don't know. Arizona just didn't have that. They just didn't roll over. They kept on fighting, and they went right past Oregon.
Well, I don't think there's much to pick this game. I'll just say this really quickly. I've never relied on the West Coast teams to do well. Back in the day, UCLA did it. Arizona's done it a few times. But, JJ, I think there are no West Coast teams other than that. Well, BYU, I'm sorry. Arizona and BYU are still around. But to me, Duke is the winner in this game.
Yeah, I mean, I think Duke is,
Okay.
Duke has a lot of talent, so I'm gonna go with them.
I mentioned BYU. They're in the Big 12. Big 12 has 4 teams there, same as the Big 10.
Yeah.
They're playing Alabama in Newark, New Jersey on Thursday. How you like that matchup?
Alabama, that's a tough one for BYU. Alabama's interesting. Like Grant Nelson ended up playing in the last game, but he didn't look like he was 100%. Honestly, I think Alabama kind of goes as Grant Nelson goes. I think he is more reliable. Mark Sears has had an up and down year.
Yeah. Not like last year.
Yeah, not as consistent as last year. He's still dynamic and still capable of putting up 30 on any given night, but that's not something that you can rely on. And without Grant Nelson at 100%, I think BYU has an opportunity to pull the upset. But it's been pretty chalky this whole tournament. I think Alabama would pull through if.
BYU is a six seed. Alabama's a 2 seed. I'm gonna take the 2 seed.
Yeah, sometimes it's that simple.
Okay, JJ, let's go to Indianapolis.
Indianapolis.
The home team is playing Houston. Purdue.
Yeah.
I think Purdue is like 68 miles from Indianapolis, West Lafayette.
Yeah, it's
what I don't understand is how Purdue got in the bracket for Indianapolis over Michigan or Michigan State. I don't get it. But the seeding they put Purdue at Indianapolis, Purdue and Houston, JJ. The Houston Gonzaga game, the second round game was a great game, I thought. Purdue has pretty much breezed through, JJ.
Yeah, I mean, they haven't really had that much of a test. I mean, you get High Point in the first round and McNeese in the second.
McNeese they fought.
They did fight, but I still don't know if I can name one player on the team.
Sure.
So
well, a lot of those players are going to be going with their.
Oh yeah, to NC State.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the new Iowa coach from Drake. He's taking his best player with him. Okay. If he doesn't declare for the NBA. Yeah, so that happens all the time when the coach transfers. So a lot of times the best players do too.
Okay, JJ, we've talked about Big Ten teams. Michigan was an 8.5-point underdog. Maryland's a 7-point underdog. Purdue is an 8-point underdog. The only Big Ten team that's a favorite is Michigan State. Now we're talking here about Purdue. Will Purdue pull the upset? Can they beat Houston? They got the home court advantage.
They do have the home court advantage. Purdue's the only team that left remaining that does not have a single transfer from another school. I think Houston will win. I mean, I think Houston will always would guard you up, but this year they've been shooting the lights out. LJ Cryer has been phenomenal. I mean, Purdue could. Braden Smith is a really good player. He's gonna be either a first or second all team American. I'm pretty sure he'll be first. He'll definitely be on some first team All Americans team. So if he goes off and really if Fletcher Lawyer can make shots, I think Purdue has a chance. But no, I don't foresee it happening. What's that?
Yeah, I pick Houston. I tell you, but if and I don't think this will happen. If Purdue gets up by 15, that crowd might really keep them elevated, keep them motivated. But I see Houston in maybe a double digit win.
Yeah, I can see that.
Then let's go to the Southeast Conference matchup in Indianapolis.
SEC on SEC.
Yes, Kentucky and Tennessee. They played each other twice already, JJ, this year.
Yeah.
Kentucky is a 3 seed. Tennessee is a 2 seed.
Kentucky's beat them twice.
Tennessee is a 4-point favorite.
4-point favorite.
And Kentucky has beaten them twice. Once in Kentucky and once at Tennessee.
Yeah, they destroyed them in Tennessee. Yeah, I think with Tennessee being a 4-point favorite, I think some of that has to do with the fact that, Kentucky will be without the services of Jackson Robinson. They've shown that they could still make it to the Sweet 16 pretty easily without him as they dismantled Illinois. Kobe Bryant has been shooting the lights out. Andrew Carr has been playing above his head. Kentucky's been really well coached, and I think they're executing incredibly well. And Lamont Butler, he hasn't let his shoulder injury get the best of him. He still played excellent defense and still, not being able to get in the lane and finish the same way, but he's been able to be an effective player on offense. So I like Kentucky a lot.
They say it's hard to beat a good team 3 times.
It is.
Kentucky has beaten Tennessee twice.
Yeah.
You said you like Kentucky a lot. Who do you like in this game?
That's a good question. I think most of the crowd will probably be rooting for Tennessee. I think Kentucky travels well, and they didn't travel incredibly well to Milwaukee. Illinois outnumbered them pretty handily, which you don't really see happen for Big Blue Nation. But I do think BBN will probably have the biggest representation. Even bigger than Purdue, just because they have.
I don't know. I think it'll be close. But
it'll be close. But I think the Houston fans, the Purdue fans, and the Tennessee fans will be rooting against Kentucky. So as much as Mark Pope is a nice guy, Kentucky's still Kentucky. So I don't expect that to be much of an advantage. I do think Tennessee. There's a lot of talk that Rick Barnes might be retiring at the end of this year.
He's getting there.
So I think if the players know that, they might step up and they might really put all the effort in and win one for the Gipper. I have Tennessee moving on. Who do you have?
I have Tennessee finally defeating Kentucky. JJ, of the 1 seeds, Auburn, Duke, Houston, Florida, which one is least likely to get to the Final Four?
Well, the only one that I didn't predict to advance was Florida, so I'm going to have to go with Florida.
Man,
I didn't have them advance until Elite 8, so I'm gonna go with Florida.
Interesting. I don't know who to go with as far as least likely to win. I don't know. Really quick though, before I get out of here, and I don't have a least likely to get there.
Okay.
But before I get out of here, JJ, Kentucky in the Sweet 16, Arkansas in the Sweet 16. Both of them got new coaches. Who's more happy with their coach, Arkansas or Kentucky?
I'll say Arkansas. I would say Arkansas is happy with their coach now, but that wasn't the case for the entire season. Kentucky's coach, they've had so many big wins. They've beaten Duke, they've beaten Gonzaga, they've beaten Tennessee twice, they've beaten Louisville. They've beaten pretty much everybody except for Arkansas.
WPS.
So, and they're in the Sweet 16 this year. I think, they're pretty ecstatic about their coach. Arkansas, I think we're still trying to make sure that it's going to work. We might end up having an entirely new team next year. So even if it works this year, that's no guarantee that it's going to work next year. So, I think Kentucky fans are probably more satisfied with their coach.
Okay.
But I would say this. I think the most satisfied fan base with their coach is BYU.
BYU, because they lost Pope.
They lost Pope, but they got the NBA guy that drew in all of the billionaires. They said that the most money that in NIL right now is BYU. They have
Ahead of
money to give,
Arkansas?
most money than anybody because BYU is willing to throw it now. That's how they got the number one player in the country to come there. That's how they got
For next year.
yeah. They're gonna have that's gonna be a regular occurrence from here on out. BYU is gonna be a player. They're here to stay. So they're the happiest with this whole situation. Uh, I would say they're the happiest, and right now USC might be the unhappiest.
Musselman. As far as Arkansas, Kentucky goes, JJ, their fan base, it depends on how far each team go.
I would agree with that. Arkansas makes it to the Final Four, and Mark Pope bows out this round. I think Arkansas fans will be able to hold that over them, especially with the win.
Okay. JJ, anything you want to bring up?
Um, Iowa has a new coach, Ben. Was it McCollum from Drake?
Yeah.
Indiana got their new coach. Who's their coach again?
Gosh, man.
Why am I blanking on their coach?
Me too.
Well, Minnesota got Nico Medved from Colorado State. He went to Minnesota. Indiana got somebody.
I know who their coach is, but
I'm blanking. But Indiana got a new coach as well. I don't know why I can't think of their name, but there were just a couple of coaching changes that I wanted to say, touch on. But
well, what about the Texas? Texas got a new coach.
Oh, Indiana got West Virginia. Darren DeVries. After 1 year at West Virginia, he left to be Indiana's coach. Yeah, Texas did get a new coach. They got Sean Miller. After going home to Xavier twice,
yeah,
he left again for Texas. You can't blame him though. I mean, that's one of the best jobs in America. Some people think it is the best job in America. They have the best facilities, but maybe in the world. So, I can understand the appeal. I can understand the allure. But yeah, I think if you're Xavier, you have to stop. You can't let him come back if it doesn't work out at Texas.
JJ, I know we've been going a long time, but I want to get you on record now for your Final Four. Want me to go first?
Okay, yeah, you pick your Final Four first.
Okay. I'm not gonna say Auburn, Arkansas, Alabama, and Tennessee.
Okay.
Because that would be an all SEC Final Four. Has anything like that ever happened?
I think the most is 3. I think 3's happened a few times.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna say, man, I hate to say it, Auburn.
Yeah.
I think they get Michigan State. So I'm gonna say Auburn out of the South. The West, I gotta go with Big Red, WPS, Woo Pig, Suey. Man, JJ, the East. I really don't know how good Duke is. I know they look good in the first 2 games, and they're still gonna be in New Jersey. I'm gonna put Duke there, and then I'm gonna go with Houston.
Okay. Well, I definitely have 2 of the same. I have Duke and Houston.
Okay, so we good on the East and the Midwest. Now it's just the South and the West.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm convinced that Auburn will make it. I think. While I do predict that they will get past Michigan, I don't think that they would get past Michigan State.
Okay, that's fair.
I think Michigan State would represent the South. And in the West, as much as I would like to pick Arkansas,
you can.
I'm going to pick Arkansas. Why not? I originally had St. John's, and they're not there anymore. So
if you couldn't pick Arkansas, what would you pick?
I couldn't pick Arkansas. Florida actually really impressed me with the way that they came back from UConn. UConn really, showed the heart of a champion. They really showed Florida a lot of different looks, and Florida definitely got out-coached in the first half, and they got outplayed in the first half. But they adjusted. They played incredibly well in the second half. I did pick Maryland to beat Florida, but I do think, if Florida gets past Maryland, they wouldn't have any problem with any of the other 2 teams that they face.
If I couldn't pick Arkansas, I would probably pick Florida. JJ, W, P.S. Woo Pig Suey. Can we get out of here?
Who they?
Who they?
Yeah, who they?
All right, man. We out of here. Bam.